The Vikings had one of the fastest starts in NFL, 5-0 last year, and then a free fall, 3-8 last year. Now, Victor the Viking, he gets to host a Super Bowl this year. Super Bowl is going to be in Minnesota. Adrian, do we think that the Vikings have any chance at being the first team to ever host a Super Bowl?
No. No, not with Sam Bradford at the helm, that's for sure.
An Eagles fan just couldn't take like 30 seconds to not get like that dig in. But I don't think
Dude, I heard it from Vikings fans all last year. The 5-0 start. Oh, Bradford looks great. I'm like, just wait. Just wait until the adversity hits. And then whoop, there goes the free fall, 3-8. Obviously, the offensive line, that's what the Vikings fans and that's what their excuse is going to be. But Sam Bradford is not a good quarterback, and that's something that I think you Vikings fans might know by now.
Yes, I agree. He is not a good quarterback. He's a fine starting rotational quarterback if your team is looking for a quarterback somewhere between 20 and 30. He's a lower end quarterback. And realistically, for all Eagles fans who are listening to the Vikings focus, you lucked out so hard that you somehow got a first-round pick for the Bradford deal. But you know what? Kudos to you guys. That was a great.
We got Derek Barnett for Sam Bradford. Way to go, Howie.
Hey,
how we do it, baby.
I love it. Honestly, I absolutely love it for the Eagles. It's found money is really what it is. It's found money. So I like that there. But yeah, Vikings, a team started out 5-0, 3-8 down the stretch, finished 8-8. And honestly, Adrian, this year, I haven't finished 8-8 again. I just don't think they really have enough firepower.
Yeah, that's where I 8. And they finished 3-8 down the stretch, and they went in panic mode because they went and addressed the offensive line, spent $100 million on 3 free agents, Latavius Murray, Mike Remmers, and then Riley Reif. Riley Reif, Mike Remmers, are they the answers?
No. They're not the answers. I mean, Riley Reif is the one who I think has shown the most upside. But do I think you're getting a Pro Bowl level guy like Andrew Whitworth was when the Rams were able to sign him? No, not at all. I mean, look, the Vikings had to do it because their offensive line was terrible last year, so they had to pay for him. They had to pay for Murray because they lost Adrian Peterson. Unfortunately, they ended up getting Dalvin Cook, which kind of cross-cancels you having to pay for Latavius Murray. But I understand why they did it.
I mean, it wasn't a great offensive line draft class, so I guess in that sense too. But yeah, I don't know. All right, I would have gone for Andrew Whitworth. That's where they should have gone.
Big time, 100% agree with that.
Go. All right, Teddy Bridgewater. What's going to happen with him?
So they came out today and they said that Teddy Bridgewater is a guy they're looking to keep on the PUP list, meaning he can return by week 6, I believe it is. So that's something interesting to kind of circle week 6, 7, 8, see what we're hearing from Bridgewater and Bradford. Now, here's the interesting thing. I would say the Vikings have the 3 best backup quarterbacks in the NFL in Bridgewater, Bradford, and Case Keenum. They went out and signed him too. So you have 3 quarterbacks there who I think are all solid starters. Bridgewater's the only one who's realistically the potential guy that can take you to that next level. And even Bridgewater, I'm not really able to say confidently, hey, he's definitely going to be a guy who's going to take our team to the playoffs and potentially put us over the top.
Yeah. All right, so we can kind of go position by position now because the running back situation, obviously this gets into the Adrian Peterson discussion. So 32 years old now. He's gone. He's not in Minnesota anymore. Only averaged 1.9 yards per carry last year. Do you agree with moving on from AP?
100%. I mean, it 100% was time to move on. And here's the thing. It's never easy to move on from your team's all-time leading rusher. But realistically, it's time to. I mean, I don't think there was really anything there that made us confident that he was going to be a factor moving forward. And realistically, even if he was back at his elite level, you know what? They're still not beating the Packers to win the division or realistically be a deep playoff threat. So why not move on and get a little youth? Now, what the Vikings have is I think they have 3 pretty good running backs. I like Jet, I like Cook, and I like Latavius Murray. So all 3 of them are there. And obviously, Cook's a guy who's going to get all the notice. He's going to get all the opportunities. However, Mike Zimmer is an old school guy. He is hard-nosed. He doesn't play. So if those fumble issues come back to bite Cook in the season, look for him to be on a very short lease and all of a sudden see Murray get right back in there.
Yeah, but there's no doubt that Cook has a good skill set, and he's a first-round guy that fell into the second. So great get for the Vikings. So all right, let's move on. So wideouts now. All right, so Stephon Diggs is pretty good. Adam Thielen kind of emerged for them last year. But what about Laquan Treadwell?
It seemed like it's a distant memory of me remembering Laquan Treadwell there at Ole Miss just torching people and winning all the 50-50 balls.
It seemed like so long ago.
It really does, and it really wasn't. So, I mean, obviously, upside is certainly there. Now, to be fair, he was dealing with a whole bunch of injuries last year, so his rookie season really never took off healthy, so he wasn't really able to really jump in. But he's a question mark. I mean, look, they also signed Michael Floyd. Now, I don't think either of us are realistically going to say Michael Floyd's going to be a guy who's going to be a realistic starter there for Minnesota. But to me, I think it also says they're not really 100% confident in Treadwell. So you have those two guys. Diggs had a really, really nice year. He's a great PPR guy. He's a great guy working underneath. However, one thing I will say about Stefon Diggs is he was an injury concern at Maryland. He had struggles staying healthy, and I don't think that those injury concerns have completely gone away. And then you have Adam Daheen here, and Adam had an unbelievable year. However, I think he's going to come back down to earth. I'm not saying he's going to be a bad receiver. I think in fantasy value, I think he's probably a receiver 5 is a good spot for him. And I say that because Adam led the league in highest catch reception rate over 20 yards. And I don't think that's realistic that he's going to continue to keep being this deep play threat moving forward.
That's amazing. The lead 20-yard catch rate, considering Sam Bradford normally doesn't throw the ball downfield. That's kind of funny. So I have Stephon Diggs at 35, 35th best wide receiver in the league. Thielen at 50. So, but Diggs is like an overachiever. So where I have like Martavis Bryant in front of him. I got John Brown, Crabtree, Deshaun Jackson, Terrell Pryor. So it's like he's like in that mix.
I think someone like Pryor is probably a little too low. As much as I'm not a big Pryor fan, I think he's still better than that. I think Martavis Bryant is probably a little too low there. I actually would probably take Diggs over John Brown, but that's also because John Brown's another guy who struggles to stay healthy a lot of times in his career.
Yeah. All right, offensive line. So let's get on to this mess.
Man, it's not a good unit. It's really not a good unit here in the offensive line. Okay, they have two veterans guards in Berger and Bone. Both of these guys and their guards are vets, and they have Pat Eflin came out of Ohio State as a rookie. He actually was my highest center coming out of the draft, minus Lamp, because Lamp was one of those guys who could go probably guard or center. So I liked that center pick. Tackle spot's a problem, though.
No doubt. I'll say this. I think Joe Burrow is underrated. I remember he started at center for them when they still had John Sullivan got hurt, and he was their longtime center. And Joe Burger played so well that Sullivan was expendable, and they kept Burger instead. And he's been good for them. But I mean the tackles. God, who even were their tackles last year? I just remember the Eagles game happened, and after the Eagles defensive line unleashed on their offensive line, the rest of the NFL figured the Vikings out real quick.
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly their offensive line is very similar to what the Bears have, in that they have a pretty good to average interior with an awful exterior in their tackles. Riley Reif's going to obviously be one of those tackles that we talked about earlier. TJ Clemens was a guy they drafted out of Pitt, and they thought he was going to be a tackle. He hasn't been nothing but a little bit of a bust there at tackle, so he's now moved to guard. So there's really nothing confident, at the tackle position for the Minnesota Vikings. And to be fair, when you run a lot of deep passing games, your tackles have to be really good, and they're really not. So it makes it really difficult for guys like Diggs to continuously get deep.
Yeah, that's right. TJ Clem, Jeremiah Sirles for their tackles against the Eagles. I remember that. Oh man. All right, Kyle Rudolph. What do you think of him?
Kyle Rudolph is a weird one too. I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
as you could get, and I'm going to say this for any Viking fan who's listening, I could easily argue that Diggs, Adam Taheen, and Rudolph are all really nice weapons. I also could argue that all three of them I have zero faith in, and I don't think they're going to be able to be as productive as they were last year. I could make both arguments because I just don't have enough data to really support me on. Now, the one thing I will say when we're looking here at Rudolph, Rudolph for his second time in his career, he had more than 50 receptions, which is great. Second time in 6 years, he had more than 50 receptions. However, he only had 50 receptions once other time, and it was just over 50. And that time he was just over 50, he didn't have that many. This time he had 83 last year. That's a huge jump. I don't think he's going to be able to make that jump again.
Hmm. All right. So let's get on to some better news because, well, their defense is pretty good. And their defensive line is really good. Now, it's a shame what happened with Sharif Floyd. We'll get into that in a second. But I want to bring not only Everson Griffin up, but Danielle Hunter. When I think of underrated, Danielle Hunter is the epitome of that. Freakish athleticism, 12 and a half sacks. Does anybody know who Danielle Hunter is?
No, no, not at all. Honestly, both of these guys are. I'm gonna say it right now. I'm just gonna cut to it. Their entire defense.
Hunter is a stud.
Their entire defense is underrated. They have really damn good defensive ends there in Hunter. Hunter being one of them, as you just mentioned, Adrian. But I think they're actually four deep. Griffin and Hunter are the guys that everyone knows. But the other two they have there, and Robinson, and Jones as well, those are two really nice backup defensive ends. So they're four deep there at the defensive end position. Very, very similar unit. Reminds me a lot of what Seattle is. Seattle, everyone knows how great they are. I don't think the Vikings defensive line is that much of a drop off from Seattle, though.
I agree. Yeah, Rob has been like a day for them for a long time, and he's always been solid. So in terms of my rankings, I got Everson 7 in terms of 4-3 defensive ends, and Hunter at 13. So with that, I had Brandon Graham at number 10, Jason Pierre-Paul at 11, Robert Ayers at 12. Then you have Hunter. Then I went Trey Flowers and Jerry Hughes, and then William Hayes.
And then when you look at their defensive tackle spots, I mean, obviously losing Sharif Floyd is huge. He's a Philly guy, by the way. He went to Washington High School, so he's a true Philly guy right there. But obviously he's dealing with some serious meniscus situation, and unfortunately looks like it's going to be career-threatening. He was a first-round pick. He did flash. Now, to be fair, the Vikings did know that he was a little bit of an injury concern when he was drafted, so it is unfortunate his career probably is in limbo, maybe even over. Linville Joseph, though, is a stud at defensive tackle. So, I mean, if you're just trying to figure out that last defensive tackle spot, you're a damn good defensive line.
Yeah. Sharif Floyd kind of rose late. He was a late riser, kind of like the Brandon Graham situation. Wasn't great to start, but he became a stud and became a top 10 defensive tackle in the league. All right, linebacker. All right, so the better Kendricks brother is in Minnesota. Eric Kendricks is really good. And I want to talk about Anthony Barr, all right, because the skill set for him, he can be the best linebacker in the game if he wants to. But last year he dropped off, and Mike Zimmer didn't like that very much, and he's talked about it this offseason. What happened with Barr last year?
Barr has actually declined every year since his rookie year in terms of sacks and tackles.
Yeah.
So there's a concern there. However, his decline went from potentially being a first team all pro to a guy who was a Pro Bowler to this past year being just a good starter in the NFL. So I have a hard time thinking that he's going to make that next step down and be a below average starter in the NFL. I'm not too worried about Barr. I mean, I just kind of think, hey, okay, big deal. You're not a first team all pro. Okay. Like that's not the worst thing in the world. He has slipped a little bit, yes, but Anthony Barr, his skill set is really, really special. I would still take him on my team. For Minnesota and the Vikings fans out there, don't freak out about Anthony Barr. Yes, he struggled a little bit last couple years. He'll be okay.
Yeah, I like him. I'm trying to think where I have him. Now I dropped back to 7 in terms of 4-3 outside linebackers, but last year I had him top 5. That's What do you think? Is that about right?
I'd probably say he's in that 7 to 10 Sam linebacker spot. I'm obviously taking guys like Davis over him. I'm probably going to take Shaq over him too. Both the guys actually down there in Carolina. I'm obviously going to take KJ Wright over him in Seattle. Um, those are some of the
Yeah.
top guys I think of.
I got Thomas Davis at 6, Shaq Thompson. So it's funny that you bring him. And then KJ Wright at 3.
Okay.
All right, let's move. Cornerback, Victor Rhodes, another guy that's really underrated.
Xavier Rhodes is a dude, man. I mean, 6 foot plus. I think he's closer to 6'3", 210, thick, physical corner. Honestly, for me, he's probably one of the toughest matchups in the NFL. If you guys remember when he played Odell Beckham, he locked him up. I mean, he rocked the world. He did outstanding. So I'm a big Xavier Rhodes fan. I think he's probably one of the most underrated corners in the NFL. He's definitely a top 10 corner. You could even argue top 5. Maybe I think he's probably like 7 in my world, but he's really freaking good. And then,
yeah,
what do you got, Adrian?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So when you look at then the safety position, Harrison Smith is probably a top 3 safety, if not the best safety in the NFL. I think Earl Thomas is still the best free safety, and then it's close between Weddle and Harrison Smith there. But I love Harrison Smith. He's just a stud. And then you look on the other corner spot, they have the ageless Terrence Newman, who has somehow constantly been a Pro Bowl level corner. And then you have their third and their fourth corners are guys that could start in a lot of other teams in Mackenzie Alexander and Trey Waynes. Both of those guys are the third and fourth corners there in Minnesota. And you know what? If they went to Chicago, if they went to Detroit, if they went to Green Bay, all of them would at least be starters at the number 2 cornerback position. So there's a good corner group right there.
Yeah, there's there in that secondary. So I got Harrison Smith at 4 in terms of my safety. So Earl Thomas, Eric Berry, and then I went McCourty. I have McCourty at 3.
Okay, that's fair. I also have Eric Berry actually more as a strong safety, and I have Parker there for Kansas City. He's the free. But, I mean, obviously Berry is a ball hawk.
Safety. Oh, I don't have free or strong. So it's just, that's what it is. And then Xavier Rhodes, he's my 10th cornerback. So there you go. All right, hot seat in Minnesota.
I mean, it's got to be Bradford. I mean, realistically, you know that the fans, and this is just unfortunate, the fans are going to appreciate you for the rental they got out of you, but you know they want Bridgewater, and the organization, they want Bridgewater. So Bradford, you don't have to win the job. You have to crush it. I mean, you have to come out and smoke it and blow people away and show that there's a huge gap. Realistically, he's not going to. I mean, he is what he is in the NFL, and that's fine. But the Vikings have invested. They have a youthful quarterback in Bridgewater. They want to know if anything's left. Bridgewater is going to get some starts as long as health, checks out. Check for him around like week 9 moving forward. He should be getting a start unless Bradford is playing at a Pro Bowl level, which I don't think he will be.
Yeah, it's got to be Bradford. Bredwell, I mean, too soon. I think last year it's okay. Just we'll see with him. Underrated. I mean, I've talked about Hunter already. We talked about Xavier Rhodes. Anyone else?
Anyone who plays defense for the Minnesota Vikings is underrated, flat out. I mean, their defense is loaded with Pro Bowl level players. 2 defensive ends, 1 defensive tackle, 1 outside linebacker, 1 corner, 1 safety. All of those guys are Pro Bowl level players, and we don't talk enough about it. We talk all the time about how good Seattle's defense is. We hear about how good Denver's defense is. Minnesota's defense is no slouch either.
So you're trying to say this is the first time in a fantasy segment that we're going to be talking about a defense.
Oh, yes. I love their defense, guys, because you know what? Offensively, I don't trust Cooks. I don't trust Cook here yet. And I say that because, look, he's had fumble concerns. They've obviously invested money in Murray. Of course, Vikings would love Cook to win the job by a long shot, but I don't think he is. I don't think he's necessarily going to be a solidified starter every single week for you as a running back too. I think he's probably more of a flex guy. However, he's going to get drafted like a running back too. So I would be a little cautious on him. If you take Cook, don't be afraid to take Murray as a late handcuff. That's the one nice thing is Murray in a lot of leagues will probably go undrafted. So in your last couple rounds, go ahead and grab him. Defensively, though, soon as someone go ahead and they're going to grab Denver probably first, then not long after, you'll probably see Houston get picked. Then you'll see Seattle. Don't stress it. If you get the Vikings, you're in every bit as good of a shape. Plus, I'm going to add in a little special teams points here because Diggs is a pretty damn good returner there. So there's another little added level there in Minnesota. I like their defense a lot.
There you go. All right, that's our Vikings show. They're average. We both have them at 8-8, just like Sam Bradford. Definition of mediocrity.
Sammy average. I think that's a great way to sum it up. Guys, we appreciate listening to our Vikings one. We got one more today. We're going to talk about the Go Pack Go. Thanks, guys.
Yes.